The antique chandelier hanging above Thornfield Institute's grand dining hall shatters into countless sparkling fragments, raining down like deadly diamonds onto overturned mahogany tables and scattered gourmet cuisine. 5 young men kneel among the debris, their expensive blazers torn and stained with blood, their faces contorted in expressions of absolute terror and disbelief. The silence that follows is so profound that even the ancient clock in the corner seems to pause its eternal ticking. Half an hour before this moment, none of them could have imagined such an outcome. Elena Sterling enters through the carved oak doors of the dining hall at precisely 12:15 p.m., her ivory silk blouse immaculate against her alabaster skin. Her midnight black hair cascades in perfect waves beyond her shoulders, and her sapphire eyes survey the room with the practiced elegance of someone accustomed to making memorable entrances. At 17, she moves with the fluid precision of a trained dancer, every step deliberate yet appearing effortless. The conversations around marble tables pause momentarily as heads turn to evaluate the newcomer. Thornfield Institute attracts the children of politicians, technology titans, and generational wealth families. But even in this environment of carefully curated perfection, Elena commands attention. Her leather portfolio costs more than most luxury vehicles, and the subtle platinum timepiece on her wrist bears the discreet signature of a Swiss manufacturer that produces only 12 pieces annually. She approaches the salad station with measured steps, selecting organic greens and heritage tomatoes with the methodical precision of someone following specific protocols. The dining staff, accustomed to serving entitled adolescents, find themselves unconsciously straightening their postures when she offers a polite thank you in accented English that suggests European finishing schools and diplomatic circles. Elena selects a table in the northeast corner, positioning herself with her back to the wall and clear sight lines to every entrance. To casual observers, she appears to simply enjoy the natural light streaming through the stained glass windows. They don't notice how her left hand rests near her napkin in a way that would allow instant access to the sterling silver knife, or how her eyes periodically scan the room with the systematic thoroughness of someone conducting surveillance. As she cuts her heritage tomatoes, the blade moves with surgical precision, each slice exactly 3 millimeters thick. The technique reveals itself in the confidence of her grip, the angle of the cut, the way she maintains perfect control without looking at her hands. This is not the casual knife work of a privileged teenager learning proper etiquette. This is the muscle memory of someone who has wielded blades for purposes far more serious than dining. A thin scar on her left wrist catches the afternoon sunlight, barely visible beneath her platinum bracelet. The mark is small, precise, the kind left by medical instruments rather than accidents. But for someone trained to read such signs, it tells a different story entirely. The placement suggests defensive wounds from blade training, the type of scar earned during knife disarmament drills when reflexes are still developing and mistakes leave permanent reminders. Her smartphone rests beside her water glass, the screen dark but positioned for immediate access. Every few minutes it pulses with a barely perceptible vibration that doesn't announce incoming messages. Instead, it confirms her location to handlers who track her movements through encrypted signals that bypass standard cellular networks entirely. The Swiss finishing school story her admissions file contains is meticulously crafted fiction. The diplomatic father exists, though his actual work involves eliminating threats to international security operations across Eastern Europe. The tragic mother's death in a car accident 5 years ago conveniently explains any gaps in Elena's emotional responses to normal teenage concerns. What the file doesn't mention is that the car accident was actually an assassination, and that Elena witnessed the entire event from the back seat before disappearing into protection protocols that have shaped every day of her life since. She has learned to weaponize her appearance, using designer clothes and perfect manners as camouflage while conducting operations that would challenge veteran field agents. At 14, she infiltrated a human trafficking ring in Prague by posing as a vulnerable runaway. At 15, she exposed a money laundering operation in Vienna that had been using art auctions to clean millions in cartel profits. At 16, she prevented a terrorist attack on a diplomatic summit by identifying the suicide bomber during a formal dinner party. Now 17, she sits in Thornfield Institute's dining hall, eating organic salad and playing the role of privileged exchange student while conducting the most dangerous mission of her career. The laughter begins from across the room, where 5 young men occupy the table traditionally reserved for Thornfield's athletic elite. Their conversation carries the casual cruelty that comes with absolute certainty that consequences don't apply to them. Marcus Blackthorne, 18 and built like a classical statue brought to life, leans back in his chair with the languid confidence of someone who has never encountered genuine opposition. His steel-grey eyes scan the dining hall like a predator evaluating territory, cataloguing every student, every conversation, every potential threat to his carefully maintained dominance. The son of Senator David Blackthorne moves through life with the assumption that his wishes will be fulfilled simply because he has expressed them. Julian Cross sits to his right, consulting his phone with the focused attention of someone conducting business rather than checking social media. As the son of federal prosecutor Harrison Cross, Julian has inherited both his father's sharp intellect and his understanding that information is the most valuable currency in any social system. His juvenile record, sealed by judicial order, contains details about blackmail schemes that would impress professional extortionists. Derek Hayes occupies the chair across from Marcus, his laptop open despite dining hall regulations that technically prohibit electronic devices during meals. The rules don't apply to someone whose father owns controlling interests in 3 major tech companies and whose trust fund could purchase the school outright. Derek's fingers dance across the keyboard with the practiced efficiency of someone who has never encountered a security system he couldn't penetrate. Ryan Mitchell provides the muscle to their operation, his massive frame straining against his tailored blazer. A defensive end who has already received scholarship offers from every major university, Ryan understands that his physical advantages can accomplish things that money and influence cannot. His hands, scarred from years of football and less sanctioned violence, rest on the table like weapons waiting to be deployed. Vincent Kane completes their circle, his dark eyes constantly moving as he analyzes the social dynamics playing out around them. Where the others rely on obvious advantages, Vincent specializes in psychological manipulation, finding the precise words that can destroy confidence, create doubt, or inspire fear. His gift for reading people and exploiting their weaknesses has made him invaluable to Marcus's operations. Together, they form what the rest of Thornfield privately calls the inner circle, though never within earshot. For 3 years, they have ruled the school through a combination of inherited power, strategic cruelty, and the administration's willful blindness to their methods. They decide who succeeds socially, who gets accepted to elite universities, and who finds their Thornfield experience transformed into daily humiliation. Marcus's attention fixes on Elena with the focus of a hunter who has identified particularly interesting prey. Something about her isolation intrigues him. The way she sits alone, despite being obviously beautiful enough to attract attention. In his experience, beautiful girls either flock together for protection or seek powerful male protection. Elena's independence suggests either remarkable confidence or dangerous naivety. "New girl," he observes, his voice carrying the casual authority that has never been challenged. European, judging by the posture and the way she holds her fork. Derek's fingers pause in their typing as he accesses the school's database through methods that would violate several federal laws if discovered. Elena Sterling, transferred from Institut Mont Blanc in Switzerland. Father works for the State Department International Affairs. Mother deceased. Clean academic record, no disciplinary issues, no social media presence whatsoever. That final detail makes Vincent lean forward with interest. In his experience, people who maintain no digital footprint are either extremely private or have something significant to hide. Either possibility presents opportunities for exploitation. "She's mine," Marcus declares with the casual certainty of someone claiming possession of an object rather than expressing interest in a person. The statement carries the weight of absolute authority, establishing territorial claims that the others understand implicitly. Julian closes his phone and studies Elena with the analytical attention he typically reserves for potential blackmail targets. She chose the corner table with the best defensive positioning. Either she's extremely paranoid or she's been trained to think tactically. Rich girls from European schools learn all sorts of finishing touches, Ryan suggests, though his voice carries less conviction than usual. Something about Eleanor's posture suggests more than etiquette training. Marcus stands with fluid grace, adjusting his blazer with the practiced motion of someone preparing for a performance. His approach to conquest follows established patterns refined through 3 years of psychological warfare disguised as romantic pursuit. Phase 1 involves overwhelming charm, backed by obvious wealth and status. Most girls surrender immediately to the fantasy of dating Thornfield's golden boy. He crosses the dining hall with measured steps, his presence causing conversations to pause as students recognize the significance of his movement. Marcus Blackthorne doesn't approach random tables without specific intentions, and the anticipation of drama spreads through the room like electricity before a storm. Elena continues eating her salad with mechanical precision, seemingly oblivious to the attention focused on her table. Her knife work remains constant, each cut exactly 3 millimeters. Her movements so controlled they appear almost robotic. She doesn't look up when Marcus's shadow falls across her meal. "Mind if I join you?" His voice carries the practiced charm that has opened doors and hearts throughout his academic career. The question is rhetorical. He's already pulling out the chair across from her. "Actually, I do mind." Elena's response comes without hesitation or the usual flutter that accompanies interactions with Thornfield's aristocracy. She continues cutting her tomatoes with the same methodical precision. "I prefer eating alone." The rejection is so direct, so completely unexpected, that Marcus actually pauses in the act of sitting down. In 4 years at Thornfield, no one has ever simply told him no when he's made a polite social request. His brain struggles to process this new experience, cycling through possible explanations that might preserve his understanding of how the world operates. "I don't think you understand," he continues, settling into the chair despite her objection. "I'm Marcus Blackthorne. My father is Senator Blackthorne. I run the social scene here at Thornfield." Elena finally raises her eyes, meeting his gaze with the steady assessment that has made experienced operatives uncomfortable. Her sapphire eyes hold no trace of the awe or nervousness that typically accompanies his introductions. Instead, she studies him with clinical detachment, as if he were a specimen requiring analysis. "Fascinating," she says, returning to her salad. "And I'm Elena Sterling. My father negotiates international security treaties. I run my own life. Now please leave me alone." The dismissal is so complete, so casually delivered, that Marcus feels something he has rarely experienced: genuine confusion mixed with wounded pride. The emotional combination proves dangerous, triggering defensive responses that bypass his usual calculated approach to human interaction. Julian appears at his shoulder, having recognized the signs of escalation and moved to provide support. His presence serves multiple functions, demonstrating Marcus's backing while gathering intelligence about this unexpected resistance. "Sorry about my friend here," Julian interjects with practiced diplomacy. "He's not used to meeting girls with actual class." "I'm Julian Cross. My father sits on the Federal Appeals Court." Eleanor's expression doesn't change. "Congratulations on your genetic lottery success. Now both of you can leave." Derek joins them, laptop balanced casually in one hand, while his other manages his phone with practiced efficiency. His digital investigation has yielded interesting results that require immediate sharing with the team. "Actually, Elena," he says, emphasizing her name with subtle mockery, "I've been looking into your background. Interesting gaps in your digital history. No social media, no tagged photos from friends, no digital footprint at all until about 6 months ago. That's unusual for someone our age." For the first time, Elena's mechanical eating pattern pauses. The hesitation lasts exactly 2 seconds before she resumes cutting her tomatoes. But Derek's trained eye catches the momentary tension in her shoulders. "Some people value privacy," she responds evenly, "especially when their fathers work in sensitive government positions." Ryan has positioned himself near the main entrance, his massive frame effectively blocking the most direct exit route. His presence isn't threatening yet, merely noticeable. But the psychological pressure begins accumulating as students realize they're witnessing something unprecedented. Vincent completes their formation, sliding into the chair beside Elena without invitation. His proximity forces her to acknowledge his presence while limiting her movement options. The psychological cage builds incrementally, each piece falling into place with practiced coordination. "You know what I find interesting?" Vincent's voice carries the silky menace that has broken stronger personalities than Elena's apparent composure. "Girls who try too hard to seem mysterious usually have the most boring secrets. Daddy issues, eating disorders, cutting themselves for attention. Which category do you think you fall into?" The question is designed to provoke emotional reaction, to crack the facade of controlled indifference that Elena maintains. Vincent has used similar approaches to devastating effect, finding the psychological pressure points that collapse internal defenses. Elena sets down her knife with deliberate precision, placing it parallel to her plate with the exactness of someone following military protocols. When she turns to face Vincent, her smile contains no warmth whatsoever. "I think you're projecting," she says quietly. "Boys who need to travel in packs and attack girls eating lunch alone usually have the most fragile egos. Abandonment issues, performance anxiety, compensating for physical inadequacies. Which category do you think you fall into?" The comeback is delivered with surgical precision, each word calculated for maximum psychological impact. Vincent's face flushes red as his own techniques are turned against him with interest. Marcus leans forward, his mask of charming sophistication finally slipping to reveal something harder underneath. The rejection has progressed beyond mere inconvenience to active challenge, threatening the social order he has spent years establishing. "Here's what's going to happen," he says, his voice dropping to what he considers his intimidating register. "You're going to apologize for being rude to my friends. Then you're going to accept my invitation to dinner this weekend, or your time at Thornfield is going to be very unpleasant very quickly." Elena's phone pulses with another barely perceptible vibration. This time, the signal carries different information, confirming that her targets have revealed themselves according to operational parameters. Phase 1 of her mission has succeeded ahead of schedule. She stands with fluid grace, gathering her belongings with movements that suggest ballet training or something more practical. The action forces the boys to look up at her, subtly shifting the power dynamics despite their numerical advantage. "Actually," she says, slinging her designer bag over her shoulder, "here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave me alone, continue your little boys' club activities, and pretend this conversation never occurred. Or you're going to discover that some people bite back harder than you expect. The threat is delivered with such casual confidence that for a moment none of them respond. The idea that someone half their size and outnumbered 5-1 would offer ultimatums seems absurd enough to qualify as performance art. Marcus stands as well, his height advantage allowing him to tower over Elena in a display of physical intimidation that has cowed dozens of previous targets. His hand moves toward her arm, intending to grab her wrist and demonstrate his control over the situation. His fingers never make contact. Elena's movement is so subtle, so economical, that witnesses disagree about what exactly happens. Her body shifts slightly, her weight redistributes almost imperceptibly, and suddenly Marcus is stepping backward to avoid falling over his own chair. The motion appears accidental, like he simply lost his balance, but the sharp intake of breath suggests otherwise. "Oops," Elena says mildly, already walking toward the exit. "These floors can be slippery. You should be more careful." She moves through the dining hall with unhurried steps, her posture unchanged despite the confrontation that has just concluded. Behind her, the inner circle stands in various states of confusion and wounded pride, their established patterns of dominance temporarily disrupted by being dismissed by a girl who has been at Thornfield for exactly 3 days. Elena reaches the corridor outside the dining hall before pulling out her phone. Her fingers move across the screen with practiced efficiency, typing a message that appears to be a simple text to a friend, but actually contains encoded intelligence that will reach handlers stationed 3 states away. Targets confirmed. Blackthorn demonstrates expected psychological profile. Recommendation: accelerate timeline. Secondary targets showing anticipated group dynamics. She sends the message through an application that resembles a popular social media platform, but actually routes communications through military-grade encryption protocols. The response arrives within seconds, confirming receipt and authorization for phased transition. Her cover story as a diplomat's daughter contains enough truth to withstand casual investigation, but the deeper layers reveal something far more complex. Elena belongs to a specialized program that doesn't officially exist, training operatives who can pass as ordinary teenagers while conducting missions that would challenge adult agents. The Blackthorn family represents her most dangerous assignment yet. Intelligence gathered over 18 months suggests that Senator David Blackthorn has been using his political position to facilitate criminal operations that span multiple states. Money laundering, weapons trafficking, and drug distribution all flow through networks that his son helps establish within elite academic institutions. Marcus doesn't know he's being groomed as the next generation of the family business. He believes his cruelty and power games are simply teenage rebellion, unaware that his father has been carefully cultivating his sociopathic tendencies for recruitment into operations that require absolute ruthlessness. Inside the dining hall, the inner circle regroups around their usual table, their previous confidence replaced by uncertainty and wounded pride. Marcus's hand still tingles from whatever Eleanor did to make him stumble, though he can't identify the specific technique she used. "Run deeper background checks," he orders. Derek's fingers dance across his laptop keyboard with renewed focus. His hacking abilities, honed through years of penetrating school systems and private databases, represent his primary contribution to their operations. Within minutes, he's bypassing security protocols that would stop most professional investigators. "Something's wrong with her files," he reports, frustration creeping into his voice. "The deeper I dig, the more inconsistencies I find. Her academic records from Institut Mont Blanc are perfect, but they're too perfect. Every grade, every assessment, every disciplinary note follows statistical patterns that suggest artificial creation." Julian leans forward, his legal training recognizing the implications immediately. Witness protection. International espionage, criminal background being scrubbed? Or she's exactly what she claims to be and just values privacy, Vincent suggests, though his tone indicates he doesn't believe his own words. His psychological profiling skills have identified dozens of tells that contradict Elena's innocent facade. Ryan cracks his knuckles with sounds like breaking branches. Doesn't matter what she's hiding, she disrespected Marcus in front of the whole school. That can't stand. The conversation continues in hushed tones as they plan their response to this unprecedented challenge. Around them, other students maintain careful distance, recognizing the signs of escalation that have preceded previous campaigns of destruction. Meanwhile, Elena has moved to the library's fourth floor, choosing a study carrel that provides optimal surveillance opportunities while appearing to focus on academic work. Her chemistry textbook lies open to a chapter on explosive compounds, though her actual attention remains fixed on monitoring communications and preparing for the inevitable escalation. Her phone buzzes with an incoming call from a number that doesn't appear in any directory. She answers without speaking, listening to a voice that carries authority earned through decades of dangerous operations. Asset in position, primary target showing expected behavioral patterns, request permission to proceed to containment phase. Negative. Maintain cover until secondary targets reveal themselves. Intelligence suggests broader network than initially assessed. Your safety remains priority one. Elena closes the call and returns to her textbook, though her mind processes tactical considerations rather than chemical formulas. The mission parameters have shifted, requiring her to endure additional harassment while gathering evidence about the full scope of the Blackthorn operation. Her training has prepared her for psychological torture far more sophisticated than anything Thornfield's bullies can devise. But maintaining her cover while allowing escalation requires a delicate balance between vulnerability and strength. She must appear to break down gradually while secretly documenting every crime they commit. The afternoon passes with deceptive calm. Elena attends her scheduled classes, takes notes in handwriting that professors praise for its clarity, and answers questions that demonstrate mastery of material she learned years ago through accelerated education programs. Her academic performance must remain flawless to avoid suspicion while she conducts intelligence gathering that would impress veteran operatives. During advanced physics, she solves equations that would challenge graduate students, while secretly photographing documents left carelessly visible on other students' desks. The first sign of retaliation comes during the transition between fourth and fifth periods. Elena opens her locker to find a photograph tucked between her textbooks, a picture of her entering the library, taken from an angle that suggests surveillance rather than coincidence. On the back, someone has written, "We see you," in handwriting she recognizes as Marcus's distinctive script. She examines the photograph with clinical detachment, noting the camera angle, the timestamp visible in the background, and the reflection in a nearby window that reveals Derek's location during the shot. Each detail gets catalogued for the growing file that will eventually justify federal intervention. Her phone receives the next message during advanced literature, a text from an unknown number containing a single word: soon. The timing suggests coordination with her arrival in class, indicating that her movements are being tracked through methods more sophisticated than casual observation. Elena responds by subtly activating a counter-surveillance application that begins mapping electronic signals in her vicinity. The results reveal 3 devices conducting unauthorized monitoring, 2 phones and 1 laptop, all registered to members of the inner circle. The psychological pressure intensifies during lunch, though Elena chooses to eat in an empty classroom rather than return to the dining hall. Her meal consists of a protein bar and water, efficiency prioritized over enjoyment, while she processes intelligence reports that reveal disturbing patterns in the Blackthorn family's recent activities. Senator Blackthorne's political schedule has been adjusted to include several unscheduled meetings with individuals whose backgrounds suggest criminal associations. Bank records obtained through channels that don't officially exist show large cash deposits that correlate with increases in drug arrests at schools where Marcus has friends. The evidence confirms her mission briefing. The Blackthornes are using elite academic institutions as distribution networks, recruiting privileged students who believe they're too wealthy and connected to face serious consequences. Marcus's crew represents the local command structure, identifying targets and managing operations while remaining insulated from direct criminal liability. Her meditation is interrupted by Julian Cross entering the classroom with documents that shouldn't be accessible to students. He sits down across from her with the confident air of someone delivering an ultimatum rather than making a social visit. "Interesting reading material," he observes, glancing at her chemistry textbook, particularly the section on improvised explosive devices. "Are you planning something dangerous, Elena?" The question is designed to establish a foundation for future accusations, creating plausible deniability for whatever retaliation they're planning. Elena recognizes the legal maneuvering from her training in criminal psychology and responds with appropriate confusion. It's homework for advanced chemistry. Professor Davidson assigned Chapter 12 on molecular bonds and their applications in industrial processes. Julian places a manila folder on the desk between them, its contents hidden, but its implications clear. "My father has connections throughout the federal court system. Judges who owe him favors, prosecutors who respect his opinions, investigators who value his cooperation on sensitive matters." Elena maintains her expression of polite confusion while internally cataloging this confession of judicial corruption. The recording device concealed in her bracelet captures every word for later analysis. "I mention this because false accusations about dangerous activities can have serious consequences," Julian continues. "I don't understand what you're suggesting," she says, her accent becoming slightly more pronounced under apparent stress. "I'm here to study, not to cause problems." Julian opens the folder slightly, revealing documents that appear to be official immigration paperwork bearing her name. The papers are skillfully forged, but their existence demonstrates resources that go beyond typical teenage harassment. These documents suggest otherwise. They indicate that your visa application contained false information about your father's employment and your family's financial resources. Immigration fraud is a felony that results in immediate deportation and permanent exclusion from the United States. Elena allows her composure to crack slightly, permitting a tremor in her voice that suggests genuine fear while actually indicating satisfaction that their criminal activities are expanding beyond local jurisdiction. Federal crimes will justify federal responses. "Those documents are false," she whispers, the perfect response of an innocent person facing fraudulent accusations. "My father works for the State Department. Everything in my application is accurate." "Prove it." Julian closes the folder with a soft snap. "Marcus wants to see you in the old gymnasium at 8 tonight. Come alone. Bring any evidence you have about your background. And maybe we can resolve this misunderstanding quietly." The invitation is obviously a trap designed to isolate her from witnesses while escalating their harassment into physical territory. Elena nods reluctantly, playing the role of a frightened teenager who has no choice but to comply with demands from more powerful opponents. "What if I refuse?" Julian stands, adjusting his blazer with movements that mirror Marcus's earlier demonstration of authority. "Then these documents get forwarded to Immigration and Customs Enforcement tomorrow morning, along with additional evidence about suspicious activities we've observed since your arrival." He leaves without waiting for her response, confident that fear will ensure her compliance. Behind him, Elena maintains her expression of worried uncertainty until he's completely gone, then immediately activates her phone's secure communication system. Control. This is Asset 7. Targets have escalated to federal crime simulation. Request immediate backup authorization for tonight's confrontation. Negative on backup. Maintain cover integrity. Local law enforcement has been compromised. You're authorized for necessary force if directly threatened. Elena closes the communication and returns to her chemistry textbook, though now she's actually studying the chapters on explosive compounds. Her mission has entered its most dangerous phase, requiring her to walk into an obvious trap while maintaining plausible deniability for whatever response becomes necessary. The old gymnasium sits in Thornfield's oldest building, a Gothic structure that predates modern security systems and emergency communications. The isolation that once provided privacy for exclusive athletic training now creates perfect conditions for activities that require freedom from surveillance. Elena arrives at exactly 8 o'clock, her punctuality demonstrating compliance while her tactical preparation reveals itself in subtle details. Her outfit appears casual but actually provides maximum mobility. Her shoes offer optimal traction for running or fighting, and her messenger bag contains items that could serve defensive purposes if necessary. The gymnasium's interior is lit by industrial fixtures that create harsh shadows and eliminate hiding places. Elena notes the positions of every light switch, every potential weapon, every exit route while appearing to simply look around nervously. The inner circle emerges from the shadows like predators who have been waiting for prey to enter their hunting ground. They spread out in a formation that blocks the main exits while leaving the emergency doors accessible, a tactical error that suggests overconfidence rather than professional planning. Marcus steps forward with the measured pace of someone savoring an anticipated victory. His earlier confusion has been replaced by cold anger that promises violence rather than mere psychological intimidation. "You came," he observes with satisfaction. "Smart choice. Running would have made things much worse." Elena positions herself in the center of the gymnasium, maintaining distance from all 5 opponents, while keeping her back to an emergency exit she's already confirmed is unlocked. Her posture suggests nervous submission, while actually providing optimal positioning for defensive maneuvers. "You said you wanted to resolve the misunderstanding about my background," she says, allowing a tremor of fear to color her voice while internally calculating strike angles and escape routes. "Oh, we're going to resolve several misunderstandings," Vincent interjects, circling to her left with the predatory movement of someone anticipating psychological dominance, starting with your attitude problem and moving on to your respect issues. Ryan moves to her right, his massive presence designed to intimidate through sheer physical mass. His positioning reveals his role as the primary physical threat, responsible for restraining her if she attempts to flee or fight back. Derek remains near the main entrance, his laptop open despite the gymnasium setting. His continued focus on digital activity suggests he's documenting their encounter for blackmail purposes or broadcasting it live to demonstrate their power over someone who dared to resist them. Julian positions himself near the bleachers, his location providing oversight of the entire situation while keeping him removed from direct participation. His role as legal advisor extends to ensuring their activities remain technically within boundaries that his father's influence can protect. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus begins, his voice carrying the authority of someone who has never been seriously challenged. "You're going to apologize for disrespecting us in the dining hall. Then you're going to agree to certain social arrangements that will demonstrate your proper understanding of Thornfield's hierarchy." Elena maintains her frightened expression while mentally reviewing the combat techniques that have been drilled into her since childhood. 5 opponents require different tactics than individual threats, demanding precise timing and the ability to neutralize multiple attackers before they can coordinate effective responses. "What kind of arrangements?" she asks, though her training has already identified the psychological profile that drives their behavior. They want submission, humiliation, and control more than any specific outcome. Vincent laughs with the sound of breaking glass. "The kind that involve you understanding your place in our social structure, starting with some private time with each of us to discuss your attitude adjustment. The threat is clear enough to justify defensive action under any legal standard, though Elena's mission requires her to gather more evidence before responding with potentially lethal force. Her handlers need documentation of federal crimes that will survive judicial scrutiny. And if I refuse, then things get unpleasant very quickly," Ryan rumbles, cracking his knuckles with sounds that echo through the empty gymnasium. "We've been looking forward to teaching you about consequences." Marcus produces the forged immigration documents that Julian had shown her earlier, along with additional papers that appear to be criminal complaints bearing official letterheads. The fabrication represents serious federal crimes that will justify everything she's about to do. "These documents will be filed tomorrow morning unless you demonstrate proper cooperation tonight," he explains, with the satisfaction of someone who believes he holds all the cards. Eleanor's phone, set to record mode since her arrival, captures every word of the extortion attempt while transmitting the audio to handlers who will use it to justify federal intervention. Her mission has succeeded beyond original parameters, documenting criminal conspiracy that extends far beyond simple harassment. "You're making a mistake," she says quietly, her voice carrying a different quality that makes Vincent pause in his circling movement. "But I suppose everyone learns from their mistakes eventually." Something in her tone triggers Marcus's instinct for violence, the psychological pressure of resistance finally overwhelming his need for psychological dominance. He lunges forward with the aggressive confidence of someone who has never encountered genuine opposition. His hands never reach their target. Elena's response begins with a subtle shift in weight distribution that transforms her apparent vulnerability into perfect combat positioning. Her right elbow drives backward into Marcus's solar plexus with enough force to empty his lungs and drop him to his knees, gasping for air that refuses to return. Ryan charges forward with the devastating momentum that has broken offensive lines and emergency room equipment. Elena sidesteps his rush while extending her leg at precisely the right angle to send his own momentum into the gymnasium's brick wall with a sound like a car accident. Julian abandons his observer position to retrieve something from his jacket pocket, possibly a weapon or communication device. Elena's messenger bag swings in a precise arc that catches him across the temple with enough force to render him unconscious before he hits the floor. Vincent attempts to circle behind her while she's engaged with multiple opponents, demonstrating tactical awareness that makes him more dangerous than the others. His approach angle would allow him to restrain her arms while someone else continued the attack. The ceramic water bottle from her bag becomes a projectile that connects with his forehead at exactly the right velocity to cause unconsciousness without permanent damage. Physics and precision accomplish what brute force never could. Derek, realizing that documenting their victory has become recording their destruction, attempts to flee toward the main entrance. Elena's pursuit demonstrates the speed that has allowed her to outrun trained assassins through 3 different European cities. Her shoulder check sends him into the gymnasium doors with enough force to trigger the emergency alarm system, ensuring that security personnel will arrive within minutes to find evidence of the conspiracy she's been investigating. The entire confrontation lasts 8.3 seconds, according to the timestamp on Derek's laptop, which has been broadcasting their planned assault to an audience that now witnesses something completely different than expected. Elena stands among the wreckage of Thornfield's most powerful social group, her ivory blouse somehow still pristine despite the violence that has just concluded. Her breathing remains controlled, her posture relaxed, her expression showing more satisfaction than exhaustion. The emergency alarm continues wailing while she retrieves Marcus's folder of forged documents, photographing each page before placing them in her bag as evidence for the federal investigation that will begin within hours. Federal agents arrive before campus security, their response time suggesting they've been positioned nearby throughout the evening. Agent Patricia Chen, who has been monitoring Elena's mission from a surveillance van parked outside Thornfield's gates, enters the gymnasium with her badge already displayed. "Ms. Sterling, are you injured?" Her concern appears genuine, while actually confirming that Elena's cover identity will be maintained through whatever legal proceedings follow. "No, Agent Chen, these boys attempted to assault me, but their coordination was poor and their technique was worse." Elena's response establishes self-defense while documenting the tactical assessment that will appear in official reports. Behind Agent Chen, additional federal agents begin processing the scene with the efficiency of people who have prepared for this outcome for months. Cameras capture every detail, while evidence teams collect documentation that will support prosecutions across multiple jurisdictions. Senator Blackthorne arrives within an hour, his voice carrying the authority that has intimidated opponents throughout his political career. 5 boys attacked by 1 girl. I demand to know what kind of weapons she used, what kind of training she received. Agent Chen produces documentation that has been prepared for this exact conversation. Your son and his associates attempted to commit multiple federal crimes, including extortion, immigration fraud, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. Ms. Sterling defended herself using techniques learned in self-defense classes at her previous school. The explanation is technically accurate while concealing details that remain classified at levels above Senator Blackthorne's security clearance. Elena's true training and mission status will never appear in public records, protecting operational security for programs that don't officially exist. Within 72 hours, the federal investigation explodes into national headlines. Bank records expose money laundering across 5 states. Communication logs reveal drug networks through 12 elite schools, and terrified students finally testify about years of systematic abuse. Senator David Blackthorne resigns under investigation, while federal prosecutor Harrison Cross recuses himself from all cases pending ethics review. 43 arrests dismantle a criminal empire that operated with impunity for nearly a decade. 3 months later, Elena sits in a California coffee shop reading university acceptance letters she'll never use. Agent Chen slides into the opposite chair, carrying a folder marked Redwood Preparatory Academy. "Ready for your next assignment?" Elena examines documents revealing identical criminal patterns among politically connected students on the West Coast. "How many schools total?" 47 identified so far, but we now have proven infiltration methods. Chen's satisfaction is evident. "Your cover will be modified for regional demographics. Tech executive father instead of diplomat, skiing accident instead of car crash, Monaco finishing school instead of Switzerland." Elena nods, gathering her belongings with practiced efficiency. Her next identity is already under construction, complete with fabricated social media history and academic records designed to fool everyone except federal surveillance. Walking toward her rental car, Eleanor's phone buzzes with a message from an unlisted number. The text contains only a crown emoji, followed by coordinates she recognizes from classified briefings. The symbol confirms her Thornfield success has attracted international criminal attention. The coordinates suggest targets far more dangerous than entitled teenagers playing at organized crime. She deletes the message and drives toward the airport, where a private jet waits to transport her to briefings that will prepare her for challenges that make Marcus Blackthorn's crew look like amateur hour. Behind her, Thornfield Institute rebuilds while implementing security measures to prevent future infiltration, unaware that their nightmare was just one small piece of a global puzzle.